You have to deal with fishing with the wind. And most of the time, wind is not that big of a factor in fishing until it starts getting over about, say 15 miles an hour. It's pretty manageable. If it stays less than 15 miles an hour, it doesn't really have a huge impact on your boat positioning, your casting, and how the fish position. It can do a little bit. But once you start getting into those heavier winds, like the 15, 20, 25 mile an hour winds, which happen, if you fish, you're gonna have to deal with that at some extent, then it's sort of a different ball game. It makes things a lot different, a lot more difficult in some areas, and I sort of want to give you guys my advice on that. So the first thing that I want to do, let's talk about the practical fishing applications. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of anglers make is they fish into the wind all the time. It's like I see this all the time. You see them fighting the wind, bucking the wind, just trying to hold their position, working into the wind. Guys, just forget about doing that. Unless you are throwing at a specific target. Say you've got a brush pile on a point in 15 foot of water where there's a bunch of fish on, and you've got to, cast to that particular brush pile, and you've got to hit that exact spot. That's the only time you should be working into the wind. If you're just fishing, like you're going down a grass line, you're working down a bank or whatever, always go with the wind, always, because there's a couple different things that does here. Number one is you can make a longer cast with it. Your line lays better, your lure presentation is more natural. You're more quiet because you're not on the trolling motor all the time. You can drift up through there. And one of the things you can do, if the wind is blowing you, a little bit too fast past an area, a couple different things you can do. Just crank up and make another pass. If you went down a bank too fast the first time, just crank up and go down it again. Keep doing that over and over again. That's one of my favorite techniques, is just keep drifting and drifting and drifting down the same pass with the wind. Other things you can do with that is you can get a drift sock. You can purchase these things called drift socks that they use up at the Great Lakes a lot. It's basically like a little parachute that hangs out behind your boat. You can get these paddles that on your power poles that slow stuff down. So there's some ways you can slow it down in heavy winds. And I'm talking about winds that are usually over 20 miles an hour in this type of situation. But one of the things that I have found out is that if you try to fish into the wind, it's really, really going to harm your efficiency. You can't, like I said, your lure presentations aren't as natural. You lose contact with your bait. You're going to backlash casting into the wind. You can't cast as far. And the noise of the trolling motor constantly being on, trying to propel you forward, is a negative to the fish too. Okay, that's one thing. Now, the next thing with that is, like, you've got to take advantage of the wind to help you catch